This is the Map Scout Challenge brought to you by OnX, where we examine the map, assess features like terrain, habitat, and access, then go out and rip it apart in person.
And right now we're going to show you the results, no holds barred, so that next time you go to public land, you have the confidence to scout, hunt, and kill whatever you're after.
Seriously just happened.
Well, it's February 3rd. I'm not sure if the groundhog saw his shadow yesterday or not, but the Chiefs did win the Super Bowl. My boy Emmanuel Sanders of the 49ers, he did his best. He blocked well, he blocked hard. He caught some balls and he got overthrown at the end of the game. That could have changed the outcome of that Super Bowl. But anyway, that's beside the point. We're going map scouting today in Kansas and Oklahoma, and I got to do it quick because there's supposed to be rain in the forecast and there's supposed to be some really cold temps in the forecast. So I don't know if I brought enough clothes for this, but we're heading that way anyway. I just met Mr. Wes Lowry, the first big buck breakdown guest that we ever had. We're up here in Kansas and we're gonna go check out some stuff here that's kind of local to him. I don't know how much information you want me to divulge here. So
It's all public.
Okay,
so.
This is public land. We're in a town called, is that okay?
Yeah.
Caney. This town is called Caney, I think, right?
Caney,
yeah.
Kansas. Yeah.
Caney, Kansas. So we're going to check out some property here. I've got a couple of map dots that are picked, and Wes says they're good. So we're going to go look at them, maybe hang some cameras, and go party because it's Wes's birthday.
It's my birthday!
She must have followed you from Texas. That looks like a Texas truck. So did that Duramax out there too. Looks like a Austin area person truck.
So Ben had hunted this parcel right here. Down in this back corner this year, probably 3 or 4 times, and there was real heavy traffic because this was the first year that he could remember, and I also remember too, that they actually planted this with corn and left like standing like 3 or 4 rows of corn up in it. One year this year earlier, we came across, there was probably 130 buck right there in that draw right across that levee.
That's the levee.
Yeah, and they were somewhere right in here. They were coming across the levee from this timber, feeding into that field and everything.
I saw some trails like down in here, I think, that cross over coming to the bottom of this field. This, I thought it was beans, so it was corn this year?
This year it was corns. I think last year it was beans, and that's why I don't think that they left it standing. And that's the same way with this piece just right up ahead. Well, where are we at? Oh, we're right there, yeah. This one they always plant because it's some private guy, I think, farms most of this stuff, so they always leave this standing. So there's always heavy traffic across the levee over to this field. It was soybeans this year. I'm pretty sure it was soybeans last year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's in that. I think I mark a good trail right there. It comes kind of off that creek or whatever.
There's been a lot of big deer seen right there.
Has there? I'm marking some good spots.
Booner size
Booners.
Deer.
All right, that's what I like.
Booner size deer.
All right, dude. Well, let's go check this one first. And then maybe go up there, or whatever's. Actually, this one might be closer. That on here it's CRP, I think, and yeah, some pretty good trails right in there. So, and I was just thinking this is like the closest distance that they would cross to go.
Right.
I don't know if that's a great spot, but we can go.
That all this stuff pretty much this year was all flooded when it rained real bad.
Really?
So like it stayed underwater for probably a month. So a lot of that stuff is going to look probably completely different from what that aerial photo is going to be. Because I know all those deer had to move out of there.
Yeah. Let's go check that out, and then we'll make some decisions based off of what we find there. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Probably see a big deer going in there.
You think?
Nothing's dropped any antlers that I've had on camera this year yet, so.
That's good.
Quite a few deer tracks across that deal where me and Dad's building that fence at.
Yeah.
And there's not really anything over there, so I don't know.
The road's right here. We're walking in, and there's deer tracks right here. This is corn that's been left up, so that's a good sign already. I just love Kansas. So there's a rub on this limb of this bodark tree here, and as you can see on the ground there is pecan leaves and branches. So I looked up, there's a pecan tree there, pecan tree there. I would imagine that with all this action that you can see, something's been digging up pecans right in here. With that rub here, I would think there's been some deer feeding in here at some point in the last couple months. I think the pecans in our area fell in like November this year, so makes sense. Wes just saw another rub right up there, what, about 15, 20 yards?
Yeah, probably.
This is how you know a big buck did this. These limbs are like 3 or 4 feet away, which means they got caught in his antlers. And he dropped them over here. How else would they have gotten over here? That dude went to thrashing. So as we're coming up, I figured something like this might happen, but there's a good inside trail here you can probably see behind me. When I say that, I mean it's just inside of a hard edge, which right out here by this levee is our hard edge. And then right here, as I walked up, saw that rub as well. There's a good rub right there. So I imagine bucks travel this, especially during the rut. I don't know about this time of year. There's a few fresh tracks on it. They've had a lot of rain in here, so it's hard to tell how fresh everything is really, and what's been rained on right after it came through or whatever. So we're gonna continue trying to, I don't want to hang these cameras too far because Wes is going to come back and pull them for me here in a few weeks or so. So I don't want to give him too much work to do.
His legs won't carry.
I can't afford it, is the thing.
He charges me by the step, so it gets real expensive after 3 steps.
I mean, that's a pretty good rub right there. It's got some nicks on it up high.
I don't think they stay in here.
Yeah.
I think they all come from across the levee and are feeding up here to that field.
Yep.
To keep and you know they're still fresh track because all them deer are coming up here again looking to see if there's still stuff left in these fields. Eye flying across the screen, something cool.
That's all right, so you can see this trail that comes into this cornfield right here. It's a spot. This is a trail that's basically that same inside edge trail that we just talked about. It's the same distance from the edge there. And I think you could definitely kill a deer here. I think you could kill a buck here. Definitely a doe if you were interested in that. It's not very far from the truck, so that's nice too. But I don't think because it's not far from the truck, I think we're gonna just go ahead and not put a camera here right now. Maybe go check a few other spots in hopes that we find a little bit better spot that we're more sure that bucks are coming through, especially this time of year. I think a lot of the corn is going to be eaten from this field right now, and I don't know how many deer are actually gravitating to this spot right now. So we're trying to find a good postseason, springtime spot to hang a camera, but also know that in the fall, if they do corn here again and they don't cut it, that this could be a really good spot in this field corner right here. There's a cornfield there.
They pretty much did field.
They wrapped it. This is the side entrance trail to the field. Comes across right there. You see a rub? There's a nice high rub right there. Let's go over that. Bunch of little bitty deer tracks here though. Lots of mamas and babies feeding in here. Man, that's a good rub. Somebody worked that pretty hard, and it goes pretty high up. Some of them aren't coming. I'd say that's probably 4 feet, maybe even a little more. So that little side entrance trail comes out through some briars right here, And it's a good trail as far as just deer side. It's got good fresh tracks on it. There are a lot of small tracks. That big rub is there. It comes out, and the majority of the action on this trail is going up here to the north. But you can definitely see, as Wes pointed out, they're coming across right here across this dike from bigger timber, I guess. So I would think that especially a lot of bucks are maybe coming from there, knowing that does are feeding over here at night and checking this, and they're bedding out in these oxbows and stuff over here near the river. I'm glad I brought Wes because he just pointed out some more rubs here. This isn't the only reason I'm glad I brought him, but there are rubs all along this edge of this sumac, and I think maybe some cedar elm and just all kinds of nasty brush, mostly sumac and like rose and stuff like that. And there's some of the rubs are new, and some of them are like signposts, or I guess you'd call them signposts just because they've been hit before. They're probably not getting hit anymore just because they're small and dead, and it doesn't give much fight back to the buck. Either way, what I'm saying is this edge right here gets used by bucks apparently quite a bit, and I would think that maybe on some kind of like a northeast wind or some kind of an easterly wind, there are bucks coming down this edge, scent checking this field. They can also see out here, which I imagine deer are coming across from the big woods over here, and it just gives them visual cues as to where the deer are in the area during the rut. So I would imagine that you could kill a buck somewhere around here if you could get a stand up in one of these big bodark trees or something like that during the rut. Let's still get this right here.
Yeah, that's the same as going up there and pretty much buying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I'm just saying it hadn't like rotted or anything. Yeah. Pretty much eat it till they tail it back in, I guess.
Yeah, probably so. Especially this time of year, there ain't nothing.
Big track right here, coming close to the truck. Pretty much 4 fingers fit inside. Of course, it's splayed out a little bit from the mud, but big track.
You know, all that cool stuff.
I picked this spot looking at, I think, a trail that comes across from that like horn of that creek and goes over here to what appears to be an ag field, which I don't know if we saw that. Should have seen that coming in or not. We can't really see it from here, can we?
Let me see where.
One of these two fields.
That's the dead end.
Okay, so yeah, there's corn in it, you said, right?
That is soybeans. This would have been the corn. Okay. Both these parcels right there.
So I imagine there was deer moving across at some point this season to that stuff. And
yeah, the heaviest like foot deer traffic was this edge. Okay. And this edge right here. I never walked over there to see where they were transitioning over the levee. Yeah. And I know up in here are pretty decent trails because last year, the year before, they had scouted it and there were some pretty decent deer in there too.
Okay, well, we're gonna go down, we're gonna walk this levee and go down there and look at it and see what we can deduce. Are you ready? Okay. So we noticed some trails on this other side, and there's several along here. There's a lot more brush on this side that kind of focuses them down into certain points, but back in here is a lot of river bottom, just flat stuff, and like we see at home, deer tend to just wander through that. There's no particular trail that you can really key in on usually. But right here is an old railroad trestle. We noticed trails on this side, and we tried to find this one. This one's definitely got some small critters running across it, but I think deer are using it as well. Coming down the edge of that trestle, and like same thing like at home in the where the old trestles are, there tends to be a lot of oak trees around them, and I'm pretty sure those two are oak trees right there, those two bigger trees. So I would imagine like in a late October situation when they're starting to pick up the rut cruising a little bit, they're keying in on acorn still, that somewhere around here would be a really good spot to be hung for sure.
Literally make them crawl through instead of jumping over.
Yep.
Worked out well.
So somebody has tied this up, barbed wire strand, and I guess since they've done that, it wouldn't be bad to hunt it, would it? I don't think so. There's definitely fresh deer tracks right here, and as you can see, Wes is working his way up into the woods on that railroad trestle where the deer are going and coming from. That's an old scrape just off the edge of the levee here. You can see where they just smoked that branch that's kind of hanging off right in the middle of the trestle here. And obviously not being used anymore really right now, but shows that deer are moving through here during the rut. May or may not be a spot, but there is corn that's standing over here and beans. I think the beans might have been cut. But we're gonna try to find a place to cross, dive up in there real quick, see if we can find anything worth looking at. Is it a rub? Wes sees a rub. I see it now. Yeah, there's a good rub right here at the corner. So we might dive over there and check it out if we can keep from getting too wet. It looks good. It's thick. Little cedars growing up in it. Some ash trees. Definitely a cross right here. Kind of gets flat and oxbows a touch right here for this little canal. And they're crossing right here and going out to that field over there. That's the corn that has been left standing. And as you can see, I mean, it's a sizable deep creek with, you know, canal, I guess, not creek necessarily, but with steep banks. So this is definitely a place they're going to want to come across and stay pretty dry for the most part. It's almost 6 foot high. Little scrape here. You know, there's definitely some human activities taking place back here, as far as I think people driving four-wheelers in and walking around a little bit maybe, but deer using it too.
This year, and I keep letting it go, and I think next year I'll probably shoot it.
This whole particular property here, this big chunk of public, it's pretty awesome. I think there's definitely some big deer to be killed around here. I think if you went into this with the mindset of like, you know, I'm gonna walk maybe a little over half mile to a mile in, I think you could really get into some good stuff. Wes says he doesn't care, but I do. I don't want him to have to walk over a half mile or something like that. So just trying to be considerate. So we're hanging stuff a little bit closer to the road, and we're trying to find our best option, which is back here where we saw the scrape earlier on the railroad trestle, the first one. We're gonna hang it up high, which I forgot my stick, so I'm gonna have to climb a tree. That's pretty neat. But we've got a trail camera we're gonna hang up and put on video mode. I think deer are still moving through here because we've got you know, fresh tracks right here at this fence crossing. So we'll see what shows up here in about a month. I'm gonna run this on video mode, which these Exodus have really nice video mode. They pick up on the exposure really quickly. I expect there to be some definite probably night movement on this time of year, and just being where we're at. We do have ag this way quite a bit, and I think during the season hunting here, you could pick up a buck moving through here in October, making a scrape like this one right back over here, you know, before dark, moving to these ag fields over here because they're far enough away that I think you're hunting close to some core bedding possibly. But it is river bottom country, so I don't know how much bedding is actually back there and how often there are, you know, shooter bucks coming through here. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna use the video mode, which I love because it helps you to figure out where the deer are coming from, what they're doing, the exact direction they're coming from, and what they're doing while they're doing that. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do here. I'm gonna do, you ever watch MXC?
No, what's that?
One thing that's real handy about these cameras that keeps you from having worry when you're setting them out on public land and you're going in long ways or whatever is the fact that you've got a screen here that shows you exactly what is on the camera. So pretty neat little deal. Anyway, now I know exactly what the frame of the camera is, and when he comes down, he's gonna be in it.
Can't figure out what to do.
So this is southern Kansas. Now I actually didn't get to make this trip, so we're really gonna need Tyler to give us his takeaways, and they gotta be good.
I'll do my best. I had 3 takeaways that I noticed. 1 being that there was local pressure. 2 being that there are standing crops which equal deer. And 3 being that the limit and the seasons are gonna keep the quality of deer high.
Okay, so that's going to need a little explanation, especially that last part. What do you mean by that limits thing?
Okay, so limits being that, I know for non-residents it's going to be a 1 buck limit, and they limit your doe harvest as well. You're not taking a lot of does in most of the state. So just overall bag limits on deer are pretty low. And Kansas is managed as a quality state. They want to have big bucks there. Therefore, their rifle season is kind of outside of the rut, the heart of the rut, and it's very short. It's a very short window. It's usually like 9, 10, maybe even 2 weeks, 9, 10 days or 2 weeks. So that'll keep a lot of deer from being shot that are kind of going nutso in November. So.
Yeah, and not to mention it's a draw state for out-of-staters anyways, so you can't even just walk up and get a tag. You got to put in early to get a tag.
Yeah, for sure. So I think on this particular WMA, that's going to help out in the area with the quality of deer, but I do think you're going to have local pressure. I think you're going to see a lot of people, since we're right outside the town there, and there are a few other towns in the area. I think that some of the locals do hunt there. I saw some sign, or plenty of sign, of people in the area, including my camera. My particular camera that we hung had been messed with, tampered with, and pretty much taken down for the last part of that, so that was no
Good
fun.
on you, guy.
Yeah, I'm glad he didn't steal anything,
Yeah,
but I
thanks.
wish he would have left it alone, so it could have run a little bit longer. Anyway, that I think is possibly a benefit of that local pressure, and just the pressure in general in that area, is that a lot of times when you hunt around urbanization, you can get away with a little more. You can get away with noise. You can get away with your scent control a little bit being a little more lax. So that's a good thing. There are standing crops that are left on this WMA. I think that's a cool thing. I suppose the DNR, the Wildlife Department, is doing that. And leaving those crops. I don't know that 100%, but there are crops in the area. And so your standing crops / crops are gonna equal deer. And I think there's a really pretty high number of deer in the area, pretty dense area for deer. And so I think that's gonna give you a lot of opportunity. It's gonna make you feel like a good hunter when you go into a spot that you're not 100% sure about and you see some deer, that's a good feeling. So yeah, I think it's a great place, and for you to have some opportunity, and I think that we should dive into the maps now and look at where some of those opportunities might occur. So this is the Copan Wildlife Area near Caney there in Kansas, and we're gonna go down here and look at the camera that we placed first. And as you can see, it's gonna be about, let's see, from the road, 470 yards. So, not too far from the road, but I wanted to make sure that Wes didn't, have to go hauling in forever to pick these cameras up, and I really appreciate his help on this project. Big help, and even just big help being in there scouting. He found a lot of good sign that helped out putting the pieces of the puzzle together and that kind of thing. Anyway, this is where we hung the camera. It's on a railroad trestle, and right here where this trestle kind of comes to the fence, that barbed wire fence that goes along the side of this canal right here, somebody had taken the barbed wire and strung it together so that there was a hole in the fence. And we had good deer sign there. There was several tracks coming in and out of that little hole, and then along this trestle right here, right in the middle of the trestle, was where a little hickory or something had grown up kind of weird, and there was a scrape on it. So I was like, this is a good spot. He doesn't have to go too far, so we put it there, and a guy tampered with it, and I don't know who it was, but it could have been somebody, a worker for the city coming in here, because I think they can cruise this canal here. But anyway, who knows who it was. We didn't get a ton of great pictures at this camera location. Of course, there was a little bit of time that it didn't get to stay out, and take pictures because of that dude. But we got a decent buck, I think, in there, and a few others. I was kind of a little bit disappointed in the way it did, but knowing that it's that close to the road and it's outside of the rut, you're just going to have that sometimes. What I learned from that, though, is that most of the deer are coming from back here along this river system in the thicker woods, farther away from the road. So taking that information, I think what we can do is go down to a spot like right here. This creek is not necessarily too deep. Deer are going to cross this. This little Caney River is quite a bit deeper, and I'm sure deer will cross it, but not as much probably. So we're looking at this spot right here that I thought might be a good spot. And if you look, this old CRP field right here, it's kind of grown up. It's got a bunch of cedars scattered in it and that kind of thing. And there are just trails everywhere. Look at this trail that goes along this fence line right here. That's a good solid trail. And who knows how much of that's at night or day or whatever. Obviously in the rut, doesn't matter much because they're going to do it. They're going to use it in the day.
That looks like a scrape line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. I imagine there are scrapes there. It's a good point. But anyway, around the horn of this little Caney River right here is a place where deer are going to be pinched down. And I figure that you could find a way. See these trails right here? I mean, that's pretty much proof. But I feel like you could find a way for any particular east. Maybe not. A southeast would be, you could probably go down here for a southeast. Northeast, you'd kind of sit up here, but an easterly wind would definitely sit well there, which I don't know what the prevailing wind is there, but down in our area, which we're not too far from there, the U.S., we get a lot of northeast winds in the wintertime usually. So you found a spot that you were looking at, just kind of cruising the map, and you're a pretty good map scouter, so do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so similar scenario. I thought this all looked kind of flat because it's river bottom, but then I turned on the hybrid layer, and you start looking at the topo lines, or topo lines as I like to say, because I'm different, and you look right there, there's a big hill, and then this little Caney River or creek, little Caney River pinches up right next to that big hill right there, and that just screams funnel to me, man. And I don't know if everyone's going to look at the map and see that, because a lot of people don't really look at the terrain features, especially more southern and the more I don't know, flat country you get into, at least not in the mountains, and not in like the big timber stuff like in Pennsylvania, but anywhere outside of that, guys don't really think about hills as being a habitat feature, or at least a terrain feature like they are. So you look how tight those lines are together right there. That's going to be a pretty steep hill. Yeah. And I think that it's going to be a really tight pinch actually against the river right there. Like there's a good chance that there is only like one trail that gets deer around the horn of this river right here, this oxbow, whatever you want to call it. And if anything, it's a great place to hang a camera to see what kind of movement you're going to get. Now it is pretty far from the road right there, which isn't a bad thing at all. But if you haul off in there, you're kind of committed at that point in time too, Yep. So either way, I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I like that spot a lot too. I actually looked at it when I was coming up with a few other spots here, and I thought the same thing. It looks good, man. And that elevation is pretty extreme for what you've got in that area.
Yeah, it's over 100 foot of elevation change. That's a lot.
It is. And I agree with you 100%. When guys see this broken landscape and this creek bottom, they're thinking more about creeks. They're thinking about agriculture. They're thinking about field edge and that kind of thing. And they're not thinking about the same thing that big woods guys would be looking for, like saddles and pinches.
Yeah, the terrain stuff.
Elevation, yeah.
Another little point too with that is that to the south of there, this is all river bottom nasty, which deer definitely will use, but it's very difficult to hunt them in. But if you look to the north, the timber gets a little bit bigger, and there's even an ag field with some CRP in it in the middle of that private up there to the north. So you could say that it's definitely a place where you could see deer going from like a bed to feed pattern, even if they do get on a wheat field or whatever that's up there to the north, or even the bigger timber up there that's to the north as well.
Yep, I like it, man. I marked another spot here kind of based off of what Wes and I had found in the area, I guess. So when we walked through a lot of this, you might have seen it in the maps, we parked right up here and we walked kind of down this fence line and walked in through some of this stuff along this edge and back down through some of this stuff and came out, I believe, probably like right in through here. And so a lot of this area right in here had pecans, and it looked like there was a ton of deer sign in there. There were rubs, and there was a good trail that was on the inside edge of this as well, with scrapes and rubs on it. And so like there was probably the most deer sign we found in a concentrated area while we were there, and it was just an afternoon, but was right in here. So knowing that, I look over here and a little bit more remote, away from roads and that kind of thing, is this little spot right here. And it's the same thing, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm copping out here or anything, but like it's the same thing. It's a creek horn, right, that comes up close and pinches up against this open country right here. Not necessarily open country, but this open levee system right here. So you've got, you know, a very small area right here from the edge of the river. It's about 60 yards or so probably. So, you know, you could sit theoretically in the middle of that and shoot both ways and have a pretty decent shot at shooting deer. So, but I mean, either way, like you talked about with that pinch earlier, you've got probably 1 or 2 trails that goes through there. So you just got to set up on the right one, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's also this spot over here I wanted to look at real quick, and this is just kind of a thought, but you can tell there's just a weird Indian mountain or whatever it is, you know, just a hump here, right? And it's got some elevation to it, and on the very top, or not just the very top, but on this hill, there's evergreen, because you can tell this this picture was taken in the winter. These evergreen trees are likely cedars, and I'm thinking that is a great place for some late season bedding. So if you were to go in there, you may be able to sit late rut or something like that on a cold day. You may be able to approach on the downwind side and do some rattling and rattle something out of that area. Or you may just be able to scout that and figure out, oh, there's deer bedding in there. Where are they going when they leave? You know, and I can't tell you that necessarily from this map because it's a big swath of timber. There's a little bit of ag down here, so there's a chance that they're bedding here and coming down here, or there's a chance that this is buck bedding. You've got doe bedding in here somewhere, and then this is kind of where they're feeding in the evening. So who knows? But just something to look at if you want to. As far as this area goes, you know, there's some roads and stuff like that you're gonna have to try to get away from, but there's nowhere you can go that's super deep really on this area, so you're just gonna have to kind of outsmart the guy next to you with some of your map scouting. And so hopefully you've learned something in this. And we actually did, the next day we did Oklahoma, a WMA there, not far from here. So if you're interested in that, check out the link, and then as far as everything else goes, do the same things we always ask you to do. Subscribe, comment if you got any thoughts, and remember, this is your element.
Live in it.